This beat-up Kennedy half-dollar might look like something you'd toss in a junk drawer, but the right one could be worth thousands, and in rare cases, even 5 figures to the right collector. And the scary part is, most people would never notice the tiny detail that gives it away. A 1984 Kennedy half-dollar does not look like a treasure coin. In fact, most of them look exactly like the kind of piece people ignore. They sit in old coffee cans, dresser drawers, coin jars, and inherited collections because at first glance they seem too common to matter. No silver shine, no old 19th century date, no dramatic design change, just a familiar half-dollar with John F. Kennedy on the front and the presidential seal on the back. That is exactly why this coin is so dangerous to overlook. Hidden among millions of ordinary 1984 Kennedy half-dollars are a few pieces that can turn a boring 50-cent coin into something worth real money, and in some cases far more than most people would ever expect from a coin that still looks like pocket change. The story of the 1984 Kennedy half-dollar starts with a coin series that already carried emotion before it carried value. The Kennedy half-dollar was first introduced in 1964, just months after President John F. Kennedy was assassinated. Americans wanted a tribute, and the U.S. Mint moved fast. The new half-dollar became more than money. It became a keepsake, a symbol of a painful national memory, and for many families it was the one coin they saved even if they never saved any others. By 1984, the Kennedy half-dollar had already been around for 20 years. It was no longer brand new, and it no longer circulated heavily the way it once had. People had a habit of pulling half-dollars out of circulation and stashing them away, which is one reason so many survive. But survival is not the same thing as quality, and quality is where the money starts to show up. Most 1984 Kennedy half-dollars you find are going to be face value coins or maybe worth a small premium if they are bright and uncirculated. That is the truth. But this video is not about the average coin. It is about the coins that fool people. The ugly coins, the dirty coins, the coins that seem too modern to matter, and the small clues that can separate a common half-dollar from a collector prize. If you have a 1984 Kennedy half-dollar, the first thing to understand is that the date alone is not enough. You have to look deeper, because the real value comes from condition, mint mark, and sometimes tiny mistakes made during production. Start with the simplest clue of all, the mint mark. On a 1984 Kennedy half-dollar, the mint mark is on the front of the coin, just above the date and near Kennedy's portrait. You may see a P for Philadelphia or a D for Denver. And if the coin came from a proof set, it may carry an S for San Francisco. To a non-collector, that little letter seems meaningless. To a collector, it is the first fork in the road. A regular 1984 P or 1984 D half-dollar found in circulation is usually common. But common does not mean worthless, because a coin can still become valuable if it is in exceptional shape or if it has an error that makes it stand out from the millions of normal pieces. Now here is where a lot of people make the mistake that costs them money. They assume a coin has to be old to be valuable. So if they find a 1984 half-dollar that is dark, dull, scratched up, or covered in years of grime, they write it off instantly. But dirt and age can hide important details. Under that worn surface might be a coin with blazing original luster left in protected areas, a scarce high-grade example that somehow escaped heavy damage, or a striking error that changes everything. The coin does not have to be beautiful at first glance. It just has to be the right coin with the right clues. One of the biggest value drivers for the 1984 Kennedy half-dollar is condition, especially in the uncirculated grades. This is the part many casual viewers miss because they think all uncirculated coins look the same. They do not. A coin can be technically uncirculated and still be covered with bag marks, nicks, weak strike details, and dull surfaces. Another coin from the same year can look sharp, frosty, and nearly flawless under light. That difference can mean the jump from a coin worth $1 or $2 to a coin worth hundreds. And that is where the 1984 issue becomes interesting. High-end examples are much harder to find than ordinary worn pieces. So if you have a 1984 Kennedy half-dollar that still looks crisp, with strong shine, clean fields, and very few marks on Kennedy's cheek and jawline, do not dismiss it. That is exactly the kind of coin collectors pay attention to. Look closely at Kennedy's portrait. The cheek, the jaw, and the hair above the ear are often the first places to show contact marks. On the reverse, the eagle's chest and wings can also pick up damage. If those areas are unusually clean, you may have something better than average. Tilt the coin under a lamp. Does the surface still flash with mint luster, that rolling cartwheel shine that moves across the coin? Are the details sharp? Does the coin look like it barely spent any time in the real world? Those are the signs of a higher grade piece, and in modern coin collecting, high grade can be everything. Then there is the proof version, the 1984 Kennedy half dollar. This is a different animal from the coins struck for circulation. Proof coins were made for collectors, not for spending. They usually have mirror-like fields and frosted designs, giving them that black and white cameo look people love. If you have a 1984 half dollar with an S mint mark and it looks unusually sharp and reflective, there is a good chance it came from a proof set. Many proof coins are common because they were saved carefully from day one, but they still matter because top-quality proofs and special cameo examples can bring strong prices. The danger is that people often inherit proof sets, break them apart, toss the coins into drawers, and forget what they have. Years later the coin looks cloudy or dusty, and someone assumes it is just another half dollar. That mistake happens all the time. And now we get to the part collectors love most, errors and varieties. This is where a seemingly ordinary 1984 Kennedy half dollar can become a conversation piece. Mint errors are coins that were struck with something unusual during production. Sometimes the strike is off-center. Sometimes the design is doubled. Sometimes the coin is struck through debris, leaving odd marks or missing detail. Sometimes the planchet itself has a problem. Not every strange-looking coin is a mint error, of course. Damage after the coin leaves the mint is far more common. But if the odd feature looks built into the coin rather than scraped onto it, you need to slow down and take a better look. One clue to watch for is doubling in the lettering or design. You do not need to become a technical expert. Just look at the date, the word Liberty, and the motto "In God We Trust." If any letters look doubled in a way that seems part of the strike rather than simple blur from wear, that deserves attention. Another clue is an off-center strike. If the design is visibly shifted and part of the coin is blank while the date is still showing, that can be a collectible error. A broad strike, clipped planchet, or struck-through error can also add value depending on how dramatic it is. The key is that the mistake has to look like it happened at the mint, not in someone's garage or pocket. There is another reason the 1984 Kennedy half dollar can be sneaky. Half dollars did not circulate as heavily as quarters, dimes, or pennies. That means a lot of them spent years sitting in storage rather than getting spent every day. As a result, some coins that look dirty on the surface are actually much better preserved than you would think. Maybe the coin toned in an envelope. Maybe it sat in an old bank roll. Maybe it was dropped into a family coin jar in the 1980s and never touched again. When a coin like that finally comes out into the light, the owner sees a dull half dollar. A collector sees a potential high-grade survivor waiting to be evaluated. This is why cleaning is one of the worst mistakes you can make. If you find a 1984 Kennedy half dollar and it looks dark, stained, or cloudy, your instinct may be to polish it so it looks newer. Don't. The moment you scrub, dip, or polish a coin, you can destroy the very surface collectors want. Hairline scratches from cleaning can slash the value of an otherwise desirable piece. Original surfaces matter. Natural toning matters. Even a coin with ugly color can be worth more untouched than bright and shiny after someone improves it. So before you do anything, hold the coin by the edges, look at it under light, and leave the surface alone. Let's talk real-world treasure hunting, because that is what makes this coin fun. Imagine you are sorting through an old relative's coin tin. You find pennies, nickels, a few foreign coins, and one lonely Kennedy half dollar dated 1984. It is not silver, so you almost throw it back. But then you notice the coin still has a strong glow around the letters. Kennedy's cheek looks cleaner than you expected. The fields are reflective in places even through the grime. You spot a mint mark and decide to take a closer look. That single moment of curiosity is the difference between spending 50 cents and discovering a collectible. Most valuable coins are not found by experts with microscopes. They are found by ordinary people who simply pause long enough to notice that one coin looks just a little different from the rest. If you want the easiest checklist possible for a 1984 Kennedy half dollar, here it is. First, check the mint mark on the front. P, D, or S. Second, look at the overall condition. Is there original shine? Are Kennedy's cheek and jaw relatively clean? Does the coin look barely handled? Third, watch for anything unusual in the strike, especially odd doubling, off-center design, or other features that look like they happened during minting rather than after circulation. Fourth, if it is an S-proof coin, inspect the mirrors and frosted details. And fifth, never clean it before you know what it is. The beauty of the 1984 Kennedy half-dollar is that it teaches one of the biggest lessons in coin collecting: value is often hiding in plain sight. Not every winner is silver. Not every treasure is ancient. Sometimes the coin that gets ignored is the one that ends up surprising everyone. A worn-looking half-dollar from the Reagan era may not sound exciting, but collectors know better. They know that condition rarities, proof issues, and mint errors can transform a coin's story. And once a coin has a story, it has attention. Once it has attention, it has a market. And once it has a market, that old 50-cent piece can stop being pocket change and start becoming a prize. So the next time you see a 1984 Kennedy half-dollar, do not judge it too fast. Do not assume modern means worthless. Do not assume dirty means damaged beyond interest. And do not assume that because millions were made, yours cannot be special. The coin in your hand might still be common. But it might also be the kind of sleeper collectors hunt for: the overlooked half-dollar with sharp surfaces, a scarce top grade, a proof finish, or an error nobody in the family ever noticed. That is what makes coin collecting addictive. It is not just about money. It is about possibility. It is about that tiny rush when a coin that looked ordinary a minute ago suddenly starts looking important. Next coin. The 1988 Kennedy half-dollar is exactly the kind of coin people ignore without a second thought. It doesn't look rare. It doesn't look old enough to matter. It doesn't have the silver glow that makes collectors stop in their tracks. To most people, it is just another modern half-dollar with John F. Kennedy on the front and the eagle on the back. But that is what makes it dangerous. Hidden in that ordinary-looking 1988 coin is the kind of sleeper value that can fool almost everyone, especially when the coin is dirty, scratched, toned, or sitting loose in an old coin jar where nobody bothers to inspect it. And for a channel built around the thrill of discovering hidden money in plain sight, the 1988 Kennedy half-dollar is a perfect example of how the right modern coin can quietly punch far above its weight. By 1988, the Kennedy half-dollar had already become one of the most familiar U.S. coin designs of the modern era. The series began in 1964 as a memorial to President John F. Kennedy after his assassination, and it quickly became one of the most saved coins in America. People held onto them because of emotion, because of history, because they liked the design, or because they simply did not see half-dollars often enough to spend them casually. That habit of saving half-dollars continued for decades, which means a lot of 1988 Kennedy have survived. But surviving is not the same thing as being valuable. The real trick is figuring out which ones are ordinary, which ones are premium coins in high grade, and which ones carry the kind of errors or special finishes that can make collectors reach for their wallets. The first thing to understand about the 1988 Kennedy half-dollar is that it belongs to the copper-nickel era, not the silver era. That means if someone expects every valuable Kennedy half-dollar to contain silver, they are already making the mistake that causes them to miss coins like this. A regular 1988 half-dollar was struck for circulation using the modern clad composition, and because of that, many people assume it can never be worth much. But coin collecting does not work that way. Value can come from age, silver, rarity, condition, errors, proof status, and collector demand. A coin does not need to check every box. Sometimes it only needs one. And for 1988 Kennedy half-dollars, that one factor is often condition. This is where things get interesting. Many 1988 Kennedy half-dollars were made, but finding one in truly exceptional condition is much harder than it sounds. People hear the word uncirculated and think that means every coin pulled from a mint set is automatically special. It isn't. A coin can be uncirculated and still be covered in distracting marks, dull surfaces, weak detail, or poor eye appeal. Another coin from the same year can look almost flawless, with booming luster, sharp details, and very few contact marks. To a collector, those are two completely different worlds. The average coin might be worth face value or a small premium. The top quality example can leap into a very different price range, especially when certified in a high mint state grade. So if you have a 1988 Kennedy half-dollar, your first job is not to ask whether it is old. Your first job is to ask whether it looks better than average. Hold it under a lamp and tilt it slowly. Does the coin still have that bright, rolling cartwheel shine that moves across the surface? Are Kennedy's cheek and jaw relatively clean, or are they covered with nicks and scuffs? Does the hair above his ear still look sharp? On the back, does the eagle look crisp, with clear feather detail and a strong overall strike? Those are the clues that tell you whether you may be looking at a higher-end coin rather than just another half-dollar tossed in a drawer decades ago. The mint mark is another simple clue every viewer can check. On a 1988 Kennedy half-dollar, the mint mark appears on the front of the coin near the date. You may find a P for Philadelphia or a D for Denver on circulation strikes, and an S on proof issues made for collectors. That tiny letter matters more than most people realize because it tells you what kind of coin you are dealing with. A regular 1988 P or 1988 D half-dollar found in circulation is usually common, but it can still be valuable in unusually high grade or with a mint error. A 1988 S proof half-dollar is a different category entirely, because proof coins were struck for collectors with specially prepared dies and polished planchets, giving them sharper detail and mirrored fields. Now here is where the story gets fun, because proof coins are often hiding in plain sight. Families buy proof sets, tuck them away in closets or desk drawers, and forget about them for years. Then those sets get inherited, opened, separated, or dumped into mixed coin boxes where the original packaging disappears. Suddenly a once protected proof half-dollar is just another coin in a pile. If you find a 1988 Kennedy half-dollar with an S mint mark and the fields look reflective like a mirror, stop right there. That coin was not meant for circulation. It may be a proof, and even if it looks cloudy or lightly toned now, it could still carry collector value, especially if the mirrors are strong and the coin has that frosted portrait look people call cameo contrast. And this is exactly why a dirty or ugly coin can fool you. A proof coin that has sat for years in a damp box or an old plastic holder can develop haze, spots, or toning. To someone who does not know what they are looking at, it may seem damaged or ruined. But collectors know the difference between natural storage issues and harsh abuse. The coin may still be desirable, especially if the underlying surfaces are strong. That is why you never want to write off a coin just because it is not shiny and perfect at first glance. Some of the most valuable, ordinary-looking, modern coins are hiding behind fingerprints, dust, haze, or old envelope toning. Then there is the part that really hooks collectors: mint errors and oddball varieties. A 1988 Kennedy half-dollar can become much more interesting if it shows a genuine mistake from the mint. Not every weird mark is an error, of course. A coin can be scratched, gouged, stained, bent, or damaged after it leaves the mint, and those problems usually do not help value. But true mint errors are different. They happen during the production process, and when they are dramatic enough, collectors love them. What kinds of clues should your viewers watch for? Start with the easiest things to notice. Look for doubling in the lettering, especially in Liberty, In God We Trust, or the date. You do not need to become a specialist or memorize technical variety numbers. Just ask a simple question: do the letters or numbers look like they have a second image that seems built into the coin rather than just smeared by wear? Also look for off-center strikes where the design is shifted and part of the coin is blank but the date is still visible. Check for clipped planchets where a piece of the coin seems missing in a smooth curved cut. Watch for struck-through errors, where grease or debris interfered with the design and left a weak or missing patch in the lettering or portrait. These are the kinds of mistakes that can turn a 50-cent coin into a collector conversation piece. One reason the 1988 Kennedy half-dollar works so well in a hidden value video is that it sits in that sweet spot between common and overlooked. It is not old enough to get instant respect from casual collectors, and it is not new enough to be sitting in fresh mint rolls everywhere. It lives in the middle ground where people assume nothing exciting can happen. That assumption is exactly what creates opportunity. The coins are out there in old albums, inherited jars, proof sets, bank boxes, and dealer bargain bins. Most are ordinary. But if you know what to look for, the unusual ones jump out. There is also a powerful emotional side to the Kennedy half-dollar series that keeps demand alive. People know this design. They recognize the portrait. They associate the coin with American history and with the generations who saved them. That familiarity helps modern Kennedy halves stay collectible even when they are not silver. And when a collector decides to build a top-grade set, every date matters. Suddenly a seemingly boring year like 1988 matters too, because the collector is not just buying a coin. They are chasing the best possible example of that year. That is how a coin most people would spend without a thought can end up carrying a premium in the collector market. If you are searching through 1988 Kennedy half dollars at home, here is the practical checklist. First, look for the mint mark and separate any S-proof coin from the regular P and D circulation issues. Second, check the surfaces under light. You want strong original luster, clean fields, and as few marks as possible, especially on Kennedy's cheek. Third, inspect the lettering and date for anything unusual that could suggest doubling or a strike anomaly. Fourth, look for obvious production mistakes like off-center strikes, clips, or missing design areas that appear to be part of the strike rather than damage from circulation. And fifth, do not clean the coin. That is one of the fastest ways to ruin a potentially valuable modern half dollar. That last point matters more than people realize. Cleaning is the silent killer of coin value. A person finds a dull 1988 half dollar and decides to make it better with a cloth, polish, baking soda, or some homemade trick from the internet. The result is a brighter coin, but also a damaged coin covered in hairlines and stripped of the original surface collectors want. Even a proof coin can be ruined that way in minutes. If the coin has any chance of being special, leave it alone. Hold it by the edges, store it safely, and let a knowledgeable dealer or grading service evaluate it if needed. Imagine the story from a viewer's point of view. They are cleaning out a parent's dresser, sorting old envelopes, and they find a handful of Kennedy half dollars wrapped in tissue. Most are ordinary, but one is dated 1988. It looks dull, maybe a little cloudy, maybe not impressive at all. But under a lamp the coin flashes with hidden luster. The cheek is cleaner than expected. The surfaces look stronger than the average half dollar in the pile. Or maybe the mint mark is an S, and suddenly that junk drawer coin turns out to be a proof issue that was never supposed to circulate in the first place. That moment is what makes this hobby addictive. It is not just the value. It is the reveal. It is the feeling that something ordinary has been hiding a secret for decades. And that is why the 1988 Kennedy half dollar belongs in a video about ugly coins with hidden money potential. It is not because every 1988 half dollar is worth a fortune. It is because this is exactly the kind of coin people fail to inspect. It blends in. It looks too modern. It looks too common. It feels too familiar. But if you catch the right combination of mint mark, proof status, superb condition, or mint error, the story changes fast. Suddenly that boring half dollar is not just 50 cents. It is a collectible with a market, a mystery, and a chance to surprise the person who nearly ignored it. So the next time a 1988 Kennedy half dollar shows up in a coin jar, a proof set, or an inherited collection, slow down. Check the date, check the mint mark, check the surfaces, and check for anything unusual in the strike. Do not assume the coin has to be silver to matter. Do not assume a modern date means no value. And definitely do not assume that dirt, haze, or dull color automatically means the coin is worthless. Sometimes the coin that looks the least exciting is the one that rewards the extra 10 seconds of attention. That is the magic of hidden value coin hunting, and the 1988 Kennedy half dollar is a perfect reminder that treasure does not always announce itself. Sometimes it hides in the plainest looking coin in the box. Goodbye guys.